Certain pillars of stability were crumbling, both in terms of escalating violence in the world of hustling, but also closer to home. Although I wasn't in regular contact with my mum, her own sense of continuity and companionship was about to come to an abrupt end. She had persuaded Pastor Boris that they should be properly married. They had been together a long time, and the traditional way of things felt like the right thing to do as she was getting older. But it wasn't to be. Just a few days before the wedding, Pastor fled to the US, where he would stay for the next 3 decades until ill health brought him back to the UK. Mum was devastated, of course. Nobody could really understand why he left. I think he just chickened out. In 1978, I lie on my bed, looking up at the ceiling, wondering what life was all about. When I was 8, I told everyone, even the big moustache in the Bible, that I wanted to be a poet when I grew up. And there I am, looking at a ceiling that belongs to Birmingham Council, with one under my pillow, thinking I'm some kind of triad gangmaster don or ghetto gunfighter. Deep down, I knew at best I was on my way to a long spell in prison, or, at worst, on a quick road to death. Just as the 8-year-old me had done, I spoke the words out. I want to be a poet. I want to prove that teacher wrong. I reach under the bed and pull out a big folder containing some of my poems and the letter Bob Marley had sent. I read the letter again. The last words were, Britain needs you, so forward on. Right now I think only the police need me, and I'm not forwarding on. Something has to change. It was over. They all protested, but I looked at them and said, it's crunch time, Nicholas. What I am doing right now is like saving your lives. So just set up yourselves and do another thing. I paid them what I owed them, and that was that. I knew I had to get away from Birmingham. Otherwise I'd be drawn back into crime. London felt like the logical place to go. I felt there would be opportunities for me there that weren't possible in Birmingham. It's hard to reinvent yourself when you're surrounded by familiar figures and familiar people. To add to my troubled mind, the police have started looking for me. They were just behind me all the time. I found out they wanted me because my fingerprints linked me to the murder of a man whose body had been found in the car. I didn't tell anyone about this. I was reassuring myself that the police would soon find the real culprit. They must know I hadn't committed murder. Looking back, that confidence was probably optimistic. In the late 1970s, the police were fitting people up left, right and centre if it suited their agenda. They wouldn't have cared if one more black man with a history of juvenile crime was banged up for a murder he didn't commit. A friend gives me the address of one of his ex-girlfriends in London. I pack up a few things, jump into my Ford Escort and start driving across Birmingham in the direction of the M6.
The life and rhymes of Benjamin Zephaniah in Mimic the Poet, who died in December. His autobiography was arranged by Sarah Davis. It was produced by Stephen Wolf and was a peer production for Radio 4. First broadcast in 2018. In tomorrow's episode, Benjamin finds himself starting a new life in London. In a few moments, it should be forecast.
Increase as age gets on, and we still got a bit of time on that, but I would hate to have to go through what my parents did, and I'm conscious of the closer we get to that point, though from a financial point we have a bit more firepower, the risk of that waiting and holding out backfire on us, and it's a very sombering feeling, and it's something you know, I'm not afraid to say I've shed a few tears over the. Am I taking this opportunity away from my partner because financially I'm stingy, but thinking a bit more.
Also, the opportunity's been taken away from you by the state of the economy and the state of the world right now. I mean, if money wasn't about it, would you have them now, do you think?
Absolutely, without.
So that's the only thing stopping you?
Yes. And I don't, obviously there's no sort of price tag on kids. And you know, again, you can, you know, have a great family that isn't on the best income in the world and totally accept.
But you've got to get the support.
Exactly. And I went through a generation where we saw, you know, a lot of people on benefits, and where I was at the time was the teenage pregnancy capital of Europe at one point, I believe.
Brexit?
At one point, I believe so. The village that my high school was in the top 3 or 4 catchment areas for teenage.
You knew a lot of people that had what was the youngest?
Well, at that point, 13.
Yeah, we had one person in our school was 13.
Yeah, and you know what? Now, well, you know what? In a sense, though the finances may not be better, it's the hell and high water. Which way do you go?
Damo, great call again. This is it. This you know, the idea that people are just choosing to have children later in life. Some are, for sure, and that's their choice. My God, there's a hell of a lot of people out there like Damo who want them earlier, but just can't. Just can't. It's another consequence, I'm afraid, of the housing crisis in particular, that is stopping young people having children at the age that young people used to have children at. It's stopping young people meeting someone they might want to have children with. It's stopping them marrying the person they might want to have children with because it all costs money they don't have. If you can't even get a stable home, how can you start thinking about bringing new life into the world? And that is why so many young people today who really want kids, like Damon, are thinking, do you know what, this society that we have created that is so rigged against my generation is possibly going to stop us having the children that we are desperate to have. And it breaks my heart, to be honest, because there are thousands upon thousands of people in that situation. Damon, all the best to you, sir. Thank you very much indeed. Lots more to come on this before 1 o'clock. If you've got a view on it, is it selfish, as broadcaster Rachel Burden suggested it, to have a child when you're 41? Do you have an issue with it? Do you think it is objectionable? I don't. Wonder if you do. 0345 6060 973. Ben Kentish Show on LBC. 12:49.
Coming up at 1 on LBC, Richard Spur. Britain's been urged by the IMF to cut benefits and taxes to get men back into work. But is that really the best way to do it? Richard Spur on LBC.
School reunion. What am I doing? Getting these people together after all these years. The last time we shared a room, there was leg warmers and rah-rah skirts involved.
We can't help the uncertainty around getting old friends together. But when it comes to bringing your old pensions together, we can help. Transfer all your old pensions into one place. To combine, go to standardlife.co.uk. Transferring pensions won't be right for everyone. Money invested is at risk. Provided by Phoenix Life Limited Trading as Standard Life. For full details, visit standardlife.co.uk.
Righty here. I'm just giving the new Gillette Labs razor a go, and it's smooth. 5 long-lasting blades, and it's got a flexness that adapts to my gorgeous face. Done in no time, then it goes back on its magnetic stand.
When everyone's home, EE Work Mode prioritizes your broadband for working from home with faster speeds in more places than anyone else. So,
Yeah, I've got you loud and clear. Clear as a bell.
this is broadband made for working from home. Search EE Broadband, powered by BT.
Work mode with EE Smart Hub Plus. To verify, see ee.co.uk/claims. Imagine delicious crispy chicken hot nuggets. Go on, picture them now. Imagine if you could get 6 of them for just $2.49. How about 9 for just $3.49? Or 20 of them for just $4.49? Woohoo! Well, now you can. And not for long. Get yours by the 16th of April. From 11 a.m. until 16th of April, install and via delivery. Delivery price uplift and fees apply. Subject to availability. Price of participation may vary.
This is LBC with Ben Kentish.
Martin says it's sad when people put finances before having children, but that's how people are conditioned now. I think it's sad, Martin, to say have a child, can I actually afford to feed it and clothe it and support it? To me, that is unselfish. That's thinking of the child. The selfish thing to do is, I want a kid, I'm just going to have one, and then, you know, when it needs food, we'll cross that bridge when it comes to it. That's not the responsible way to go about it. This text comes in from Vicky at WhatsApp. WhatsApp's coming in tonight. I had my daughter at 36. Didn't want children, but wouldn't be without her now. She's my world, and I was a better mum from being older than had I had her young. I had done all my partying and was quite happy to stay at home and look after baby. She's 20 this year, and I looked after my mum and grandmother, who passed at 99 and mum 73. I've made it clear to break the cycle, as I don't want her looking after me as a carer as I get older. I found with my mum, roles were reversed, and I just wanted to be her daughter again. We had a great time, and I miss her every day. It's not selfish to have a child when older. I hope I've paved the way for my daughter to have a nice, happy life. I'm sure you have. Let's talk to Vicky in Ladbroke Grove about this. Hi, Vicky.
Hi. So I'm the product of an older mum. In the 60s, my mother had me when she was 42, which was exceptionally old then, and obviously there was no IVF or anything. It never bothered me. I never even thought about it twice. Nobody ever said, was your parents your grandparents, even though they didn't look young for their age. They looked pretty good for their age. I had my first child at 44, just shy, 2 months before my 44th birthday, and I had my second one 2 months shy of my 48th birthday.
48?
So I was like,
Wow.
yeah,
So
so I
you're
would like
47.
to make it. I'm 56 now.
Sorry, when you had your youngest, you were 47.
No, when I had my youngest, I was just a couple of months shy of my 44th birthday.
Sorry, I misheard you, so you were 43. Got you.
Yeah, but my daughter was a miracle baby to the point where everybody came out to welcome her after I brought her back to see them. And my second child, oh, by the way, the first one was IVF. I don't want any parents to be under any illusion that this was a natural birth. It wasn't. I went through 12 rounds of IVF. It's not easy to have a baby when you're older.
Wow.
And with my second child, I had to buy another lady's egg. So he's not from my egg, he's from my husband's sperm, but not my egg.
Yeah.
I just want to make that clear, because I hate the way celebrities talk about they've had a baby and they never say how.
They make it sound easy, when if you got the money, then it becomes easier. Well, 12 rounds, that's pretty grueling.
I was very pragmatic about it, and it was like, if it happens, it happens. It doesn't.
Right.
But at the time, I was sharing a room with somebody in the IVF clinic when we had our eggs harvested, and she was in floods of tears the whole time. I mean, she was really distressed about it. But because I was so old, I knew I had virtually no chance. So it was just like, if it happens, it happens, and I'm lucky. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But my point is that my children don't feel because I look much younger, but also because it's just not a question. Nobody cares. Who cares? Lots of people have children older. In fact, when I gave birth to my second one, there was a lady with 50 who was having her first.
50? Wow. That is, I mean, that's...
But she was doing IVF, and I spoke to her about it, and she said she had to get on with it very quickly because she wanted a second one, and it had to happen in the next year, or she'd be told. They didn't allow it at that particular clinic.
Do you think do you have any objection to that, Vicky? You know, by the time that child is at university, she's going to be retired, she's going to be basically 70. Is there anything selfish about that, as has been suggested today, do you think?
Personally, I don't know enough about her situation. Maybe she's got a younger husband. If she's got a younger husband that can be around, fine. But if she's talking about she's a single mum, which is kind of the way she intimated me she was, because she was very much a career-driven woman when she's now decided, now she was about to retire, that she wanted children, then I don't think that's quite right somehow. I don't know why. It doesn't feel right.
What do you think it is? Try and break it down. Is it that she wouldn't be as energetic and active with the baby? Is it that she's not going to be as around for as much of the child's life? What's the
It's
issue?
the fact that if she dies,
Yeah.
there's nobody for that child. That child becomes an orphan if she doesn't have a husband. I don't know, chef. Don't be emotional, I don't know. It's none of my business.
Yeah.
But from my point of view, both of my parents died really young. And I was devastated because I absolutely worshipped my father. But the fact is, if I'd been born 10 years earlier, they would have still died when I was quite young.
Yeah. It's like, it's sort of, it's, a lot of this is luck, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is.
You can have a baby age 41 and you can live until you're 110. You can have a baby age 41 and, as we were hearing earlier, develop early Alzheimer's by the time the child's 10. It's horrible.
Yeah.
It's a lot of it's down to luck.
Yes, and it really also depends on how much other family there is. I mean, I got the feeling that lady was very much alone. But, and
She
of
had
course
lots of
I'm alone
siblings,
because
maybe.
my parents have died and my partner's parents have died. So in that sense, we were quite alone. But I helped bring up my nieces and my brother, I should say, is 16 years older than me because my mother was married before and unfortunately her first husband died, which is why she had another child so late because she remarried. And I don't know, it just hasn't been a problem for me at all, like with you.
Yeah,
And
I genuinely don't think it had any negative impact on my life at all, Vicky.
I think it's had a positive impact on my life. My parents are more experienced, and because of that, they gave me better advice.
Yeah. My parents didn't have much money when they were in their 20s and 30s. And by the time I mean, you weren't rich, but by the time I was born, they were financially secure. And I mean, that does make a difference to a child.
It does. My parents were as well. Well, my father was. He's a very successful TV director, and that made a difference. You know, he could look after me and support me.
Your surname's Spielberg.
Pardon?
Your surname's Spielberg.
But when my children are born, I was financially stable. I've travelled around the world with my job. I've done everything I wanted to in my career. I felt a rounded person. The idea of me having a child at the age of 26, I remember thinking I might be pregnant at 26. I thought, I'll have it. What a hero. It would have been a good life. I still hadn't finished partying.
Yep.
I had no interest. I didn't even look after myself.
I was just going to say, I can look after myself in my early 20s, Vicky, let alone anything else. I've got to get there because we're almost out of time, but thank you, Vicky. Great, cool, and lovely to talk to you. Patricia texts, my ex-husband and I were married 19 years after trying for many years, including IVF, which didn't work. I fell pregnant naturally at 40, gave birth at 41 to my son. I would have had my children earlier in life by choice, but nature took its course, and I was grateful to be blessed as an older mum. And Andrew in Queenstown, New Zealand, says, my mum was 39 when I was born, my dad was 49. Didn't feel like I missed out, but as a teenager, people thought my parents were my grandparents, which embarrassed me no end until I properly grew up. Really interesting conversation, that. 3 really interesting conversations. Thank you very much for all your calls, texts and tweets tonight. Thank you too to Emma for very kind words on the text. I'm back with you 10 o'clock tomorrow night. Hope you'll join me again tomorrow. If you missed the Midnight Show, don't forget Global Player is your friend. Get that from your app store or at globeplayer.com. I'll see you tomorrow night. Coming up for LBC, Ian Payne right now. Richard Spur.
Good morning. Still to come, more than 800 black actors have signed a letter supporting Francesca Anuwadal-Rivers, who's been abused online for taking the role of Shakespeare's Juliet. I'll be asking how appropriate you believe it is for actors of colour to be cast in white roles. But first, Britain's been urged by the IMF to cut benefits and taxes to tackle the crisis of worklessness. The Work and Pension Secretary Mel Strides vowed to do whatever it takes to get Britain working. So this morning, how effective or fair would it be to cut benefits and reduce the tax burden as an incentive, if you like, to force men and women, for that matter, back into work? And if you don't have a job, what is it that's stopping you becoming economically active again? 345 6060 973.
On your radio, on Global Player, and
Play LBC.
leading Britain's conversation.
Sebastian Usher has been following developments.
There is no sense that Israel is ending its operation there and is continuing to target anyone that they regard as somebody who is a fighter, an activist for Hamas. So on that level, this is what Israel said it will do. On the response from Hamas and from Ismail Haniyeh himself, he has essentially said that this doesn't change anything, that he has already lost members of his family, so many other Palestinians in Gaza have as well. He's not going to let this shift or change the policy that Hamas is following.
President Biden has promised what he called ironclad support for Israel amid concerns that Iran is about to launch a significant retaliation for the killing of its commanders in Syria last week. The Iranian Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei has again said Israel would be punished for the strike on its consulate. Will Vernon reports.
Concern has been growing in Washington over the increasingly aggressive rhetoric used by officials in Tehran. Mr. Biden said that American support for Israel was ironclad, and the US would do all it can to protect the security of its ally. US officials are keen to send a very public message to the Iranians that despite differences of opinion between Mr. Biden and the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu over the conflict, any attack on Israel will be met with a forceful response by Washington.
After years of negotiation, the European Parliament has approved a sweeping reform of the EU's migration and asylum rules. It will toughen border controls, speed up deportations, and require member states to share responsibility for refugees. The Democratic Party in South Korea has strengthened its majority in parliament, with nearly all votes counted from Wednesday's election. Together with its smaller ally, it's on course to win over 170 seats. Jean McKenzie reports.
These elections, although just parliamentary elections, they don't decide the president. They are being seen as a midterm referendum on the current president, Yoon Suk-yeol, who's been in office for 2 years now. Now, he has been unpopular from the start, but neither side expected him to be punished this much. If his party does lose in a big way, it will weaken his authority and make it nearly impossible for him to be able to push ahead with his agenda and pass legislation.
BBC News. The United States and Japan have announced what they called a new era of strategic cooperation, with the building of a joint air and missile defense system. President Biden said the upgraded military pact was strictly defensive in nature. The Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida emphasized the importance of a free and open Indo-Pacific region amid a perceived growing threat from China. The ruling military junta in Mali has suspended all political activities in the country. A spokesman said the suspension was motivated by what he called sterile discussions during an attempt at national dialogue earlier this year. Here's Julian Bedford.
Opposition groups in Mali and the international community have been urging the military leadership to make good on their promise to restore democracy 4 years after they seized power. A presidential vote which had been scheduled for February was postponed and no new date has yet been set. Just last week, opposition parties called for elections to be held as soon as possible. The public enthusiasm that greeted the wave of coups across the Sahel is ebbing, as the military authorities fare little better than their democratically elected counterparts in ending the jihadist violence that has long been people's main concern.
Rights groups say an indigenous woman has reported Honduras to the UN Human Rights Committee in the first such challenge to an absolute ban on abortion. The woman, identified only as Fauzia, was raped and forced to give birth after being denied emergency contraception and an abortion. Canada's government says it's preparing for another potentially devastating wildfire season after a warmer than normal winter left little snow in the ground, compounding droughts in several regions. Last year's season saw more than 15 million hectares of forest go up in smoke.
Hello and welcome to Business Matters here on the BBC World Service. I'm Sam Fennick. It's very good to have your company. Coming up on the programme today, US inflation is proving very sticky, isn't it? It went up again in March. We'll talk about what's behind that increase and how they're going to get it down. The World Trade Organization gives us their take on how the crisis in the Suez Canal is affecting global trade.
At this point, it does not seem to have a major effect on international trade, and that's simply because global supply chains are under much less pressure now than they were in 2022.
And we'll hear from gamers in South Africa who struggle to play because they can't pay to do it.
Sometimes PlayStation will give you like a free trial. When the last time it happened to me, they gave me a 14-day free trial. So then I could play FIFA online against other people and I get access to free games.
We'll have more on that and hear from the fintechs who are providing solutions for those gamers in South Africa. As ever on Business Matters, we're joined by two guests on opposite sides of the world. It's a very good evening to Silicon Valley journalist and host of Silicon Insider podcast, Michael Malone. Very good evening to you, Michael. Thanks for being with us.
Hi, Sam. Good to be here.
Are you a gamer?
Used to be. In fact, I literally played the very first video game when it was set up in a bar in Sunnyvale, California.
No.
Yep.
You've got that is something to talk about, isn't it?
And my sons who are in their 20s and 30s, they were gaming last night.
They're gaming. But you stopped gaming. Did you not really get into it that much, or is it something that hasn't quite stuck with you?
Yeah, I kind of left after the first iteration. This is about the fifth. And my sons haven't played for a while, but all of a sudden they've gone retro and they're right back into it.
Well, I believe it. It's very popular, and we'll find out more about gamers in South Africa a little bit later on. We're also joined today by Karen Percy. Very good morning to Karen. Karen's in Melbourne. She's a freelance business journalist and not a gamer, I don't think, are you, Karen?
No, unless you count, playing hours and hours and hours of Tetris and Candy Crush on long distance flights. Being a gamer, I suspect I don't.
I think we do. I think absolutely. Candy Crush is massive. It's coining in all sorts.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
I can do that for hours and hours, mindlessly doing it. But when you've got a lot of time to fill on a plane from Australia to, let's face it, almost anywhere in the world, it's a good way to kill time.
It is a good way to pass the time. I'm a little bit of a Candy Crusher myself, Karen. Maybe later we should talk about what levels we're up to, but perhaps not now. We'll compare levels. But let's get